Brilliant. Okay, so we'll start off with silencing our digital equipment. And then once we've done that, apologies for absence list. Urgent business. I've not had notification of anything, no. Declarations of interest. Any? No. Okay, public question time. Brilliant. And then item 5, draft minutes of the Administration Budget Policy Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 27th of January 2022. Is that you, Councillor Jabbar? Right, go on.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the Policy Overview Scrutiny Committee for considering the administration budget proposals. They took a lot of time, and it was a long meeting. I felt that they looked into the proposal before them in detail. So thanks to the committee for that. Chair, they accepted all the budget saving proposal except one. The one they asked us to consider not taking through is RAF BR 1526 to the value of £62,000, and they asked Cabinet to consider that. I think we have had considered it, and I think on this occasion we're saying that we don't want to take this proposal out, so we're leaving it in as it is. So I would like to, with that, I would like to thank the committee again for considering our options in detail, and I'm happy to move the minutes, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Do we second those minutes? Agreed. Okay, and then item 7 is draft minutes of the Opposition Budget Considerations Policy Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 8th of February 2022. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair, again. So at this committee, we had the proposals from the Lib Dems and the Conservatives. Again, Chair, the committee took their time to consider the proposals in both alternative budgets. The recommendation for the minutes was that we consider all the proposals contained in the two alternative budgets. Cabinet has done that, and Chair, we are not accepting any of the recommendations proposed in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. So based on what Councillor Jabbar's just said, do we agree the recommendations he's just made? Brilliant. Item 7 is Revenue Monitor and Capital Investment Programme 21-22, month 8th November 2021.
Thank you, Chair. So, as you know, you received regular report to Cabinet on the revenue and capital. So this is month 8, and you'll get month 9 in March. So it gives you details of the expenditure in the revenue and also capital. So if you see in the report, Chair, that in the community health and other social care, there's an adverse variance of 7.455 million and 4.58 million for children. But both of these overspend, if you like, are associated with COVID-related issues. There's also an underspend of 5.394 million. That's basically reduction that we've seen due to the capital program slipping. So at the end of the financial year, we're anticipating there will be a positive variance of 2.522 million. We've still obviously got just over a month to go before the end of the financial year, but we're pretty confident that it will deliver a balanced budget and hopefully with a decent surplus as well, Chair. In terms of the capital, we've reprofiled the programme. Obviously, because of COVID, we've not been able to do the planned activities, and the anticipated spend for this year would be 52.558 million. Again, it's detailed in the report. I'm quite happy, Chair, to take any questions colleagues may have.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Does any member have any questions or comments for Councillor Jabbar? No? Okay, then we have item 8, which is the revenue budget 2022-2023. Councillor Jabbar.
Sorry, Chair, before we start this item, I think I've just been checking. I think I can't find it. Savings on Targeted Youth Lot 3, is that to do with positive steps? Yes. Yeah, in that case, I have a personal interest.
All right, thank you. Can we note that, please? Yep. Okay.
Chair, can I just double check as well that there's an item on there in relation to Unity, and I'm a board member of Unity. I thought that it was okay. I think in a separate forum, Chair, it was discussed, and I was advised that I'm okay with that. Can I have a ruling from the monitoring office, please? Thank you for that clarity, Paul.
Okay, so do members agree the recommendations of item 7? Agreed? Brilliant. So item 8, revenue budget 2022-2023. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you very much, Chair. So obviously, tonight this is the major item on the agenda. Every year, Chair, we try to look at how we can find the gap in the budget to produce a balanced budget for the following year, and it gets harder every year. And I was hoping that when the government advised us that we were going to get a 3-year spending review, then we might have a chance to anticipate what was happening over the next 3 years rather than 1 year. But unfortunately, they only give us 1 year settlement. And now that's incredibly disappointing, because you can't run a major organisation like this with all kind of statutory provisions and capital programme on a short-term basis. And we have been making that comment to government loud and clear, but unfortunately they seem to be not listening. So anyway, what we got here is looking at the gaps that we got to continue to be able to provide key services to our residents. On top of that, Chair, what we have additionally is the inflationary increase. Now, we're seeing a 30-year high in terms of the inflation rate. So this is obviously going to have an impact on the services that we provide. In addition to that, we're seeing a new taxation coming in form of national insurance contribution, as well as the massive hike in energy cost. So all these factors, Chair, are having an impact on our budget and our ability to set a balanced budget. So what we have done is we have looked at a number of areas in order to produce a balanced budget for 23-24. So first of all, we've looked at where the savings could be made. And as you've heard previously, we have looked at 53 areas, which has given us a total saving of £6.2 million. Sorry, £6.26 million. We're also looking at using reserves as well as using flexible use of capital receipt. If you take all that into account, we are then still required to increase the council tax, which we don't want to do, but we're forced to do it because the government is not giving the money that we need to provide key services. So our suggestion for next year, Chair, is to increase the general element of the council tax by 1.99 and then 2% for the adult social care. Now, what we're doing different in this year is that we're actually ring-fencing the 1% of the adult social care to make sure that we provide living foundation wage salaries for our care home workers. And I think that's important at a time when living cost is going up, that the people at the sharp end of our economy who are doing a wonderful job have a decent pay. And that's the reason why we're doing that. There's obviously a lot I can say, Chair, but in terms of the key points in the report, then I've covered that. Again, I'm more than happy to take any questions from colleagues, and obviously the Borough Treasurer is here as well as the Chief Executive. Together we'll try to answer any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Does any Cabinet member want to make any questions or comments on that? No? So I think I would just like to extend a really, really heartfelt thanks to you, Councillor Jabbar, and to the whole of your team. I think for not just introducing our budget plans, but for the work that goes into it. And I think it's needless to say that it's never, ever, ever an easy task or a pleasant task setting a council budget. But I think this budget recognises the importance of local public services to the people who live here. And those services are absolutely vital. In many cases, they're life-changing, or even, I'd go as far as saying life-saving. And I think things like caring for older people, keeping our children safe, or supporting those with like financial difficulties and hardships and struggles. But to make a difference, these services do need adequate funding. And I think it was your point around the basis on which we set our council tax was really, really important to know. And I think it's really easy for the government to pretend and defer responsibility, but the reality is that they have an impact on how we set our rates for council tax. But the reality is also that they gave us funding based on the assumption that we maximise how much we raise our council tax by and how much we bring in. So knowing that the demand for services is continuously increasing, and that the costs are rising not just for the council, but for local households, we've had no choice whatsoever to increase the council tax. So we do it with literally a foot on our necks. And that's not, easy at all. It's difficult. It takes weeks and weeks and months of actually deliberations and how we're going to get there. And, we challenge ourselves, we challenge each other. But in doing so, this time we've made sure it makes the most difference to those people who live and work here. And I think introducing the foundation living wage, last Friday we were at the Combined Authority in Trafford. And because Oldham had introduced the real foundation living wage for carers, we had unions, we had people from the sector who actually came to thank Oldham and to thank Salford for the steps that they had taken. And it was monumental, but I literally had to control myself. I felt so overwhelmed because these were people who were sharing really difficult stories of how that being in the care sector has impacted their lives. So they were going to work, doing a really difficult job through the pandemic. And we know that the pandemic doesn't discriminate anyone. We're all at risk. All our families were at risk. But these people put themselves out there. And we're going from, the national wage to introducing the real foundation living wage. And to many people, that may sound like they're getting more pay, but actually they're not. They're getting just about, even with us introducing that, enough to pay their bills, enough to put the next meal on their table, enough to actually do the jobs that they love, but actually just meet their basic necessities. So this isn't extra for them. Doesn't mean that they'll have loads of goods and treats, or their kids will. It means that the real threat of losing their homes, like a lady told me on Friday, that she was so close to losing her home, is like diminished, and that's the whole point. So it's been really, really important to reflect the issues that people talk to us about on doorsteps when we make these decisions. And I think I'm so proud that we've been able to do that. So cleaning our streets, so Councillor Chadderton, all that has been really, really important. And extending the Don't Trash Oldham campaign has meant so much to people who are living in areas where they feel like they're neglected or that we don't care. And we've shown them that we do, and that's really, really important. And whether it's, increasing funding for activities for young people, we know they've been impacted during the pandemic as well. So all these things are really, really important. And these decisions are always made with a heavy heart, but also with an absolute focus, I can say with great pride, on what's best for our local people. And that's what we pledged that we would do. And that's the guarantee that you get with a Labour administration. So I'm so super proud of all of you and every single member of the team, and Harry for providing that direction. But it's had a huge impact. And this is just a start. We will continue to do that, make the greatest impact to improve the lives of local people. And that's our commitment as a Labour administration. So thank you so much for that, Councillor Jabbar. We'll move on to why do I always forget the most important bit? Do we agree? This is what happens when you get really passionate when you're speaking about stuff. But do we agree the recommendations of that report? Members, agreed? Okay, brilliant. Good job you sat next to me, Harry. Okay, item 9 is medium-term financial strategy 2022-23 to 2026-27. Thank you, Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. So this report deals with the next 5 years financial plan As I said at the earlier chair, we can only deal with it in a proper way for 1 year, given that the settlement is for 1 year. Nevertheless, it's an indication of what we want to do over the next 5 years. You will see that in the report, it talks about the gap for 23-24 is 16.711 million. And obviously the pressure continues until the 5th year of the plan, which is 26-27. I think as well as that, Chair, if I can draw your attention to the fact that the Council is engaged in transformation programmes, and I just want to mention 4 of them for the Cabinet's consideration today. Place-based integration communities being one, children's services another one, adult social care integration with health, economy and public realms. I think all those programs will help us to deliver changes and provide better way of providing our services, but also deliver financial services. But I think the point is, Chair, that unless councils get money from central government to provide key services, especially at a time when inflation is increasing, when energy cost is increasing, I'm afraid we'll continue to meet like this and look at finding savings from our existing services. Again, I'm happy to take any question, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Would any member like to ask a question and make a comment on those proposals? No? So do we agree the recommendations of that report?
Agree.
Brilliant, thank you. Item 10 is Council Tax Reduction Scheme 2022-23. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. So we're required to have a council tax reduction scheme. We've had one since 2013. So the scheme that we had previously, Chair, and the one we got this year, we're recommending that we continue with that. So it gives 85% of discount on Band A properties. And I think it's important that we continue to do that given the financial pressure people are facing. Even though our tax band and the number of people who are in the scheme have grown, so therefore there was a pressure to review this. But I'm pleased to say, Chair, that we're keeping the current scheme in place. The other point I wanted to make in relation to this is that a lot of people will have heard about the £150 energy discount that's coming to councils to give out to council taxpayers. So we're waiting for guidance on that. As soon as we get it, then we will make those payments. But I want to make one thing very clear, is that this £150 is not going to be part of the council tax reduction scheme. So in other words, this payment will be disregarded when we do the assessment for people to qualify for council tax reduction. This £150, which is for energy increases, will not be counted as part of the financial assessment to see how much they get. So I just wanted to make that clear, so there's no confusion around this area. Again, Chair, I'm quite happy to take any question colleagues may have.
Again, any members have any questions or comments? No, so do we agree the recommendations? Thank you. Item 11, Capital Strategy and Capital Programme 2022-23 to 26-27.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've got obviously a very exciting programme. Over the next 5 years, we propose to spend just under £350 million, which will help to transform Oldham, and hopefully it will improve the quality of the life of our residents. And we're incredibly proud of this programme that we've got. Clearly, you've seen in the earlier report, because of COVID, there's been some delays, but fortunately, we haven't lost the funding. What we've done, we've been able to carry it forward to the future year. And I'm really excited with our new Chief Executive and what he's done at Blackburn and Darwin. I'm hoping that with his knowledge and skill and the funding that we're providing, we will see a genuine transformation in our town centre and across the whole of the borough. Obviously, this plan deals with the programme, the strategy deals with the numbers going forward for 5 years. The format, Chair, is very same as we've done it previously. We're legally required to have one, and it's there for your consideration. Again, quite happy to answer any questions colleagues may have.
Any questions or comments, members? No? Do we agree with the recommendations of the report? Brilliant, thank you. Item 12, Treasury Management Strategy Statement 2022-23, including the minimum revenue provision policy statement, annual investment strategy and prudential indicators. Councillor Jabbar.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. We're required to have that by law. I'm pleased to say that we comply with all the code and best practices they're out there in terms of CITFA, in terms of LGA, government and so on. It's a 5-year document rather than 3. All the issues that you mentioned, including the minimum revenue provisions, is in the document Appendix 1. It's quite a technical report, but actually it's quite a good read. If people do get a chance to read it. I'm quite conscious, Chair, a lot of people, when they see long, big reports from finance, they're not very interested. But if you got the time, please have a look. It contains quite a lot of good information. I'll leave it at that, Chair. Again, happy to take any questions colleagues may have.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. I'm sure people will be welcoming your recommendation of reading that report and how exciting it is. But does any member have any questions or comments?
Just to reinforce that, I have read the report.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Do members agree with the recommendations of the report? Agreed. Okay, item 13, housing revenue account estimates for 2022-23 to 2026-27 and proposed outturn for 2021-22. It's tongue twister. Oh, Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, just to give Abdul a rest. This is the report on the ring-fenced housing revenue account. We have approximately 2,100 homes that are still owned by the council managed through 2 PFI contracts. This means that we still have, unlike several other councils, a housing revenue account. I suppose the most important decision that we're being asked to make this evening is around a rent increase for the people who live in these homes. So the government's recommendation is for a 4.1% increase, which would, if we implemented it, be the highest increase in rents since 2014/15. We had a look at what the options were available to us, bearing in mind the pressures that people have been under during the pandemic and the cost of living squeeze that we've already referred to this evening. And the recommendation in the report before us, therefore, is to have an increase of 2.1%, which will be significantly below the level of inflation, and which I hope will help somewhat in terms of people being able to manage with the difficulties that face many Oldham residents. It's also recommended in the report that service charges remain frozen. We haven't increased service charges since 2017-18, so while it's a relatively small amount of money and not that much money that people have to pay each week, nonetheless that should also help people. And in terms of the other increase or considerations of rents for things like garages and so on, they are all covered as a contract, and so the rent will increase according to the contracts. And the extra care concierge costs will be recovered at cost to the council. So those are the main recommendations that Cabinet's being asked to agree tonight. This is the first time, I think, that we've ever not gone with a recommended rent increase. So it shows you that we have put some consideration into this and done what we can to help people.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. And I think before I ask any of the members if they want to say anything, I just want to again extend my personal gratitude to you as Cabinet member and to the officers that have helped work you through this. And I think it's really important again to demonstrate and show that, you know, we're always going to have the challenge of making cuts because that's the way the national funding formula works. It makes places like Oldham the most difficult ones to administer at times like this. But we've said this before, we're not accountants. We do everything with heart, with empathy, with understanding. And it's really difficult to implement what the government asks us to do all the time without considering the real life consequences that will have on our local people. And we're not here just to keep cutting hard year after year after year after year and blaming the government. We're here to make decisions based with real understanding, empathy, and you've done that and you've demonstrated it today again. So I want to thank you so much, and to your officers. And I really do hope that that makes life easier for some of our most vulnerable people in the borough. And we'll continue, again, under a Labour administration, thinking about people first and putting them first. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Would any other members like to comment? No? Well, do members agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Again, well done, Councillor Roberts. And let's move on to item 14, which is a statement of the Chief Financial Officer on reserves, robustness of estimates and affordability and prudence of capital investments.
So thank you, Chair. I'll present this paper because it is the report of the Section 151 officer, which is the position that I hold in Oldham. And there is a requirement for me to comply with Section 25 of the Local Government Act 2003, and thereby the Council, that there is a report and a statement about the robustness of estimates and made for the purposes of the revenue budget calculations, and also the affordability and prudence of the proposed capital investment programme and the adequacy of the proposed reserves. So this report that you have in front of you ensures compliance with the requirement. There is no set format for the report, but we've used a style in Oldham, and this report is very much aligned to practice we've used previously. It does set out the recommended level of balances to support the budget for 22-23, and that is based on a risk-based analysis, which is highlighting 11 areas of risk, and these are detailed in the report and in the appendices. And the recommendation is for balances of £19.935 million for 22-23, which can be achieved by utilising the underspend which is forecast at month 8. The report also looks at the level of earmarked reserves specifically, and that's really important because our budget for 22-23 is being balanced by the use of reserves. So it demonstrates that we have adequate reserves to achieve that. The report also looks at how the estimates are prepared and advises that they're prepared in an appropriate manner, and all the key issues that have been taken into consideration. And most specifically looks at the affordability and prudence of the capital estimates. There is a detailed commentary on financial resilience, which is particularly important given the fact that many local authorities have had to go to government over the past couple of years to seek support because they were unable to balance their own financial positions without assistance. And linked to this, the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy has introduced something known as the Financial Resilience Index, the most recent round of which was issued just at the end of January. And what that does is looks at areas which highlight where financial resilience might be challenged across every local authority in the country. And I'm pleased to be able to say that there are no major concerns in relation to the figures that have just been released with regard to Oldham Council. And that's, of course, very important in the context of budget setting for 22-23. So overall, I am able to advise that the estimates are robust and to give members assurances around setting the 22-23 budget, both the revenue budget and the capital programme. Happy to take any questions.
Do any members have any questions for Anne? No? So we agree with the statement made by the Chief Financial Officer. Agreed? Okay, thank you. And that brings us to the end of the meeting today. So thank you everybody for your attendance.